Merry meet. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst. I'm Reverend Michelle Buhite, the minister of this congregation. My pronouns, which I offer to create a truly inclusive and brave space for all to live into the fullness of their identities, are she and her. As you came in this morning, for long-timers, you may have noticed a bit of a change in the look of the entryway to the chapel once you come in. The church elves were busy this week moving furniture and creating new spaces, and so what was formerly known as the dining room, which I don't know what we'll call it now, we'll probably always call it the dining room even though the table is no longer there, is now a great place for children to gather, and we have made it purposely wonderful for kids. So it was an exciting change, and as we were looking at the finished results, it was like, why didn't we do this before? This is awesome. So things have changed. I love change. As Unitarian Universalists, we are people of a wide path, engaging in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and gathering, coming together to make a difference. We are so glad that you have chosen to be here, virtually and in person. Throughout the month of October, we will be exploring the topic of courage. And today, we will explore the courage to apologize and forgive. This is appropriate as we recognize the Jewish High Holy Day of Yom Kippur, which Congregation Havurah, which is nested in our building, celebrated here earlier in the week. For those of you gathered in the chapel, I invite you to put your phones on reverence mode, silencing them so that you and all may be fully present and free from distraction. We begin our service by creating sacred space, and we do that by lighting the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. To face the world's shadows, a chalice of light. To face the world's coldness, a chalice of warmth. To face the world's terrors, a chalice of courage. To face the world's turmoil, a chalice of peace. May its glow fill our spirits, our hearts, and our lives.
A question I frequently get asked is, how does it feel to be Native American and still be a citizen of the United States of America? I often tell people that it feels like our Native community is an old grandmother who has a very large and a very beautiful house. And years ago, some people came into our house and they locked us upstairs in the bedroom. Today, our house is full of people. They're sitting on our furniture, they're eating our food, they're having a party in our house. They've even come upstairs and unlocked the door to our bedroom, but it's much later. And we're tired, we're old, we're weak, and we're sick. And so we can't or we don't come out. But the thing that is the most painful is that virtually nobody comes upstairs to find the grandmother in the bedroom. Nobody sits down next to us on the bed and simply says, thank you. Thank you for letting us be in your house.
For the past few years, we have been offering a land acknowledgement and gratitude for the land where our church rests. And recently, we've added an element to that. We've added pouring water on some rocks, a libation. We get this practice from ancient peoples who would pour a libation to honor the Great Mother, the earth, the spirits of all living things. And so as part of our land acknowledgement, we offer this libation in gratitude.
Please say thank you with me. Thank you. Say again. Thank you. Thank you. We began to include a land acknowledgement as an essential element of Sunday worship with our service of Thanksgiving on November 22nd, 2020. The acknowledgement read like this: My name is Angela Warren, and I am part of the UU Amherst Planet Thursday initiative. Great memories. Beginning this week, we will begin our worship together with an acknowledgement and word of gratitude for the land upon which our church rests. The Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst sits on 11 acres of land that once belonged to the Seneca Nation, one of the tribes that make up the Haudenosaunee. The land belonged to them, not because they had deeds or other legal proof of ownership, but because they were born to the land and lived in relationship with it. They hunted game, planted corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. They harvested medicinal plants and understood that reciprocity is the core of existence. Today, we do not glamorize the early stewards of the land. We simply acknowledge and give gratitude for the lives they lived and the relationship they cultivated and nourished. We are the heirs of deep connection. And so we say, thank you, Nyahweh in the Seneca language. We ask forgiveness on behalf of our ancestors, and we covenant to live with respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. We give away our gratitude for the beauty and resiliency of this lovely planet that birthed us, nourishes and sustains us, and that will receive us back when life has used us up. We followed this acknowledgement with a litany of gratitude by O. Eugene Pickett. Let us center in our hearts and minds the stewardship of the Haudenosaunee that preceded our fortune to exist here, in this place, on this day. Allow our thanks to help turn past hurts into forgiveness. Let us enter the room of the grandmother, sit on the edge of the bed where she has been cast away for so long, and listen. Your response will be, we give thanks for this day. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. We give thanks this day for this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and its seasons. We give thanks this day for the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements. We give thanks this day for our community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. We give thanks this day for high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared. We give thanks this day for all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom. We give thanks this day for human liberty and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose. We give thanks this day. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Since that Thanksgiving service in 2020, we've changed some of the words to talk about sharing more than belonging, talk about creativity, stewardship, continuation of stewardship, learning about what we can continue here on this gift that is 11 acres. If it belongs to us, we belong to it as well. And so today, after we're going to do the traditional singing of the children out, which when we had classes upstairs, we would do on a weekly basis almost, unless we had a multi-generational service. And since over the past few years, we're shifting the culture and trying to move outside and together instead of everyone separate. We try to bring everyone into appreciation, gratitude for the gifts that we have here at UU Amherst, and we'll continue to share and hopefully explore more what it means to be heirs of the Indigenous people who were once here.
I have to catch my breath. I like to sing fast and loud, so thank you for following me as I dragged you through with the song. I think we sounded magnificent together. There are two very important birthdays coming up this week. One of them is mine. And the other is that of the American poet and Unitarian E.E. Cummings. We share a birthday. Let us honor his life and contributions with my favorite of his poems. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirits of trees, of a blue, true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and love and wings and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any, lifted from the know of all nothing, human merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears are awake, and now the eyes of my eyes are opened. He just gives me chills. We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such a people, we make bold promises about how we will strive to be together. Please join me as we affirm the sacred promises we have pledged. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world. Each of us carries with us into this time cares and concerns, joys and sorrows. Together, we create the container where we can put down our burdens, knowing they are held gently by this beloved community. For those joining virtually, I invite you to give voice to that which is on your heart, or perhaps add it to the chat in the live stream. For those here in the chapel, I invite you to come forward and to place a stone or shell on the table labyrinth in recognition of that which is on your heart.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that set us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Please join me in a communal response. In this gathered community, we hold one another and the world in love. I know I'm generalizing a bit, but I think many Unitarian Universalists would say that what drew them and keeps them in a UU congregation is the lack of guilt Unlike many faith traditions, Unitarian Universalists do not use guilt and the fear of hell to encourage converts or keep people warming the seats long after they've stopped believing. Am I right? Well, I'm here to say that I wish we had a little more guilt, a little more courage to name the times when we've not acted according to our principles or the person we want to be. Now, shame is a different story. We don't need any of that. But guilt? A little guilt can do us good. Shame researcher Brené Brown notes the difference between guilt and shame as the difference between I did something bad, guilt, and I am bad, shame. The first can provide the impetus to make us want to do better, while the second traps us in a cycle of self-loathing and potentially worse behavior. So why do I wish we had a little more guilt? I think that little twinge of guilt can motivate us to do better, to seek restitution, to acknowledge our failings. A little bit of guilt may prompt us to call or write someone with an apology for something we did or something we failed to do. Maybe you know those as sins of commission and omission. If so, I know your religious background without asking. Today we are exploring what it means to have the courage to apologize and to forgive. Wait, forgiveness takes courage? Yes, especially when it is forgiving ourselves. I don't know about you, but the relentless movies in my mind love to remind me of shortcomings that go back 50 years or more. Forgiving ourselves is an ongoing process. It's not one and done. I will say I was not my best self while caring for my mother with advanced dementia. I'm still working on that layer of forgiveness. None of us has our stuff totally together. Tomorrow is Indigenous Peoples Day, only recently changed from Columbus Day. You're forgiven if you still automatically reference the person who opened up the floodgates of the European invasion of America, but do try to work on it for next year. You see, forgiveness is somewhat conditional. You are forgiven, but there is an expectation that there will be a change. I wonder what that looks like on a larger scale, that expectation that forgiveness is somewhat conditional, with an expectation that there will be change, that we will do better. In a time when other religious traditions are splitting, with both the Episcopalians and Methodists experiencing schisms over LGBTQ rights, Unitarian Universalists might feel a teensy bit superior. But I'm here to tell you that we have a complicated history as well as the complicated present that Emily Garrick shared with us a few weeks ago, which if you didn't see that, you can go to our YouTube channel, UU Amherst, and watch the video. It was really, really good and really, really important. Although we have learned better and tried to do better, our history is a complicated one. On the cusp of Indigenous Peoples Day, I want to share with you our history regarding Native Americans. I'm grateful to my colleagues, Reverend Karen Johnston and Reverend Dana Stivers, for their research and generosity in sharing their words. This is a hard history and an important one for us to know and address in light of the Eighth Principle's injunction to accountably dismantle oppressions. I remember the sick feeling in my stomach when I first encountered the reports of the discovery of graves of Native American children at residential schools in Canada. At that time, approximately 1,300 unmarked graves at 4 former schools in Western Canada shocked the world. And of course, since then, more have been discovered in Canada and in the United States. Officials have identified 53 schools with marked and unmarked graves and anticipate that the count will rise to thousands or tens of thousands of children in those graves. Let that sink in. Children forcibly taken from their homes to residential schools that were designed to wring out their native identity, their culture, their language, their people. Tens of thousands of children. None of this was a surprise to Native communities, which have long held survivor stories of students digging graves for their classmates, or rumors of children disappearing under suspicious circumstances. Since 2017, human remains have been found in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, that are associated with families from these indigenous communities: Rosebud Sioux, Alaskan Aleut, Northern Arapaho, Blackfeet, Oglala Sioux, Oneida, Omaha, Modoc, and Iowa nations. It's very sad, but what does that have to do with us? Unitarians had their own residential schools. I have to be honest, that is not a thing I learned in seminary. Truly, it wasn't until I read Reverend Karen Johnston's sermon, much of which I'm including in paraphrase here, that I knew any of this history. But Unitarians not only were involved in establishing and managing a number of these schools in the 19th century, they were proud of their involvement as acts of service, of social justice. According to Reverend Dana Stiver, early Unitarian writings indicate that many Unitarians propagated or at least remained complicit in the popular idea that westward expansion of the American frontier marked an advance of civilization over the savagery of native peoples. End quote. Reverend Samuel Atkins Elliott, president of the American Unitarian Association, the 19th century equivalent of the UUA, wrote in his thesis at Harvard, "Indians as a race are inferior intellectually to white men, but this is not or should not be the object of Indian education to make Indians scholars. We do not expect now from the Indian any contribution to national thought or character. Indians must be taught to live properly before they can be taught to think and act with judgment and independence." End of quote. I don't know about you, but I need a drink of water. As Reverend Karen Johnston notes, when we hold history with integrity, we find that nearly or fully forgotten aspects begin to emerge. That is what happened in the Unitarian Universalist universe. In 2007, delegates at General Assembly called for our faith movement to uncover our links and complicity with the genocide of Native peoples. Out of that, it became more widely known that in 1870 to 1876, the American Unitarian Association worked with the Ute tribe in Colorado under the Grant Peace Policy, and did so to present them the better phases of a Christian civilization. In 2009, UUA President William G. Sinkford, our first president of color, used the occasion of General Assembly to offer a formal apology to the Ute tribe for the Unitarians' historical complicity in crimes and violence against their people. The apology was accepted by a member of the Ute Nation. Apology and forgiveness. Both acts require tremendous courage. It would be so much easier to try to just bury that uncomfortable history. But truth-telling is important. Facing up to shortcomings and learning from mistakes, even when they seemed so virtuous at the time, those are the hallmarks of a living faith, a living tradition that can become a leader as 21st century America becomes more and more secular. As I noted at the beginning of the service, we are a people of the wide path. We have among us mystics and secularists. And because our faith is based in values rather than beliefs, we can gather theists and atheists, creating beloved community and reaching out to a hurting world.
What good am I if I'm like all the rest? If I just turn away when I see how you're dressed? If I shut myself off so I can't hear you cry? What good am I? What good am I if I know and don't do? If I see and don't say, if I look right through you? If I turn a deaf ear to the thunder and sky, what good am I? What good am I while you softly weep? And I hear in my head what you say in your sleep. And I freeze in the moment like the rest who don't try. What good am I? What good am I? What good am I then to others and me if I've had every chance and yet still fail to see? If my hands are tied, must I not wonder within who tied them and why? And where must I have been? What good am I if I say foolish things and I laugh in the face of what sorrow brings? And I just turn my back while you silently die. What good am I? What good am I?
What good am I? It's really an awesome question to ask ourselves individually and as a community. Perhaps you remember this line from Hillary Clinton's 2016 acceptance speech as the Democratic presidential nominee. Do all the good you can, for all the people you can, in all the ways you can, for as long as you can. It's a variation of a quote often attributed to John Wesley, the founder of Methodism. You know, the ones who are splitting over whether or not gay people can be married or can be ordained into ministry. And we can't be smug about the struggle. In the 1980s, Unitarian Universalists were asking those same questions about gay clergy. We just managed to reach conclusions based in love and acceptance a few decades before these other faith traditions. Apologies and forgiveness are still happening in our faith. In recent years, many of our congregations have adopted restorative justice and peace circles as a place where apologies and forgiveness can take place and relationships restored. We have a team of folks who have been trained in these techniques because we're not perfect. We mess up. The important thing is that we seek restoration to begin again in love. May we have the courage to apologize and forgive ourselves and one another. I want to share with you a short video that's coming up next that is based in the Litany of Atonement that was, you can find it in the back of our hymnal, but it was written by Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs, who passed away just a month or so ago. And at the beginning of the video, he talks about creating this piece and how important it is for us as Unitarian Universalists to engage in the practice of atonement, a word you don't often hear in these walls. So I offer you Reverend Rob Eller Isaacs.
The people who published the hymnal chose to put the response, the communal response, into the third person. I wrote it in the first person. I wrote it, I forgive myself, I forgive you. We begin again in love. I see the person who is forgiving as an instrument of the holy, and the person being forgiven as likewise an expression of the holy, more than an individual psychological dynamic where somebody did a bad thing, they admitted they did a bad thing, they made amends, and somebody else makes a judgment that they have made adequate amends. Some people really hesitate to participate in this experience because they think that they don't actually know whether forgiveness has been earned. I also had an experience with Bill Coffin years ago where he said, Brother Isaacs, what makes you think you can forgive yourself? I don't think I can forgive myself, but I think I know that I recognize and I teach others to recognize that we are an embodiment of the holy, that we're in partnership with God in that process of forgiving. So it's important to me that it be singular rather than plural. So here we invite people to come together as in pairs or in small groups if they wish, or simply to imagine that in themselves which needs to be forgiven, and to call to mind someone with whom they need to reconcile. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference, I forgive myself, I forgive you. We begin again in love. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For each time we've struck out in anger without just cause, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For losing sight of our unity, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love. For so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, I forgive myself. I forgive you. We begin again in love.
Sing with me. For some of you, this is familiar. For others, you may be trying it for the first time. I'm going to sing it myself one time through, and then invite you to join me. And I'll do the pitch awareness thing so that you have a visual of where your voice will go. But don't sing yet. I'll sing it first. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. With me. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. City of joy, city of sorrow, city of promise, city of pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. World of joy, world of sorrow, world of promise, world of pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. All this joy, all this sorrow, all this promise, all this pain, such is life, such is being, such is spirit, such is love. Just hold that and breathe for a moment. Our service is drawing to an end, which means our service in the world is ready to begin. Let me tell you about some opportunities to connect and serve in the days to come. There is a book study group that is meeting Fridays in September. You are more than welcome to join. We began this Friday. You can find more information about that in our website and in the newsletter. If you are interested in becoming part of small group ministry, which happens both via Zoom and in person, there is a little red box just past the last pew on the right-hand side as you leave the chapel. Jot down your name and your contact information, and we'll go from there. But small group ministry is really where all the juiciness happens, where you have a chance to share from the heart and to listen deeply to others. It's magic. I will note that we have a congregational meeting coming up on the 30th of this month. Again, you can find information on the website and in our newsletter. And I would be remiss if I didn't offer you an opportunity to participate by giving financially to support the ministries and, the utilities of this congregation. So you can find the giving link on our website. You can text your gift, or there will be a basket at the back if you'd like to offer your gift there. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing blessing, and then remain standing as we extinguish the chalice. Please rise. Travel light and travel easy, till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. May the road rise up to greet you as you leave your past behind. I will think about you gently, and I'll hold you in my mind. Look at one another. Travel light and travel easy, till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. And as we extinguish the chalice, I hope you will join me in these familiar words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.